Yeah, bet you do you love vampires, don't you, Charles? But that's beside the point. And the point is, good evening, afternoon, or whatever time of the day it is in your part of the world. And tonight, we're once again back to playing Hunter the Reckoning, the Beast of Glenkildove. Now, last time, if you didn't catch it or didn't watch the recap, everything points to Cormac being the Beast of Glenkildove and murdering one of our childhood friends, Simon, who was, well, roommates, or rather wanted to be roommates with Cormac until his life was tragically cut short. And also, we went through our training, which consisted of us becoming a, well, Royal Marine Commando, so now we are ready and able to recreate any and all dog soldier memes that will appear in this continuity, hopefully without us getting torn to shreds. That remains to be seen, but hey, particulars, details, etc., etc. And hello there, new around, you've arrived just on time. Now then, let's put on some dungeon synth, because that apparently worked out surprisingly well last time we did that. I don't know if it's going to be too loud or too quiet. And we can begin where we left off. Chapter 3. The Magpie's Nest. On the grey wolf I lay my sovereign ban, the great grey wolf who scrapes the earth away, lest with hooked claw and furious hunger he lay bare my dead for gloating foes to see. Emily Lawless. You open your eyes. Sunlight is spilling through a gap in the curtains. It must be late morning. You're in your old room. You look around. It's as much as you left it, 8 years ago. The bookshelves still groan under the weight of your books and bound volumes of notes on folklore and the occult. It seems that Mare has kept your room sacrosanct. I'm touched. Mare isn't one for sentimental speeches, but I recognize that is a gesture of affection. You notice that the door is open, just a crack, and that you are being watched. The door slowly opens. On the other side is a little girl, perhaps 4 or 5 years old. Her face is covered in freckles and her hair is a cap of thick, dark curls. She's holding a stuffed tiger. She looks at you shyly. She takes a firmer grip on her tiger. My name is called Niam Grogan. I'm 4 years old. Mare Grogan is my mammy. She's your auntie, so that means we're cousins. This is my tiger. His name is called Blakey. If you were awake, and you are awake, she told me to tell you that there is breakfast. This is the first time you've heard of Mare, who must be nearly 60, having a daughter. Oh, I didn't know I had a cousin. It's nice to meet you, Niam. And Blakey. My name is Liam Grogan. Niam beats, her shyness temporarily evaporating. Maybe later we can play. Her message delivered, Niam disappears behind the door, leaving you to get up. Mare has cleaned your clothes, and you also have a selection of the clothes which you left behind in Ireland from previous visits. What is your style? Tough choice. I wear my civvies. Neatly pressed chinos, a freshly ironed dress shirt and tie, a grey sports jacket, and immaculately polished shoes. Just a normal bloke all around. The Royal Navy are very keen on personal admin, as they call the art of looking smart. You were taught to how properly iron and fold a shirt long before you were ever allowed to fire a gun. Mare has left Terry's shotgun, which you used last night to defend yourself against the beast, and then took with you to the wolf's head, leaning against the wall. In the light of day, you're a little surprised that it even fired at all. The barrels are rusty and slightly warped. All the same, it's a strangely reassuring sight. It might not be much of a weapon against the monster you face, but you've seen it hurt him at least. Although the gun might also be dangerous to you in other ways. You are not licensed to own a gun in Ireland. Do you intend to keep it? You're a little bit late on that one. However, since we are in a Hunter the Reckoning story, yes, I need it despite the risks carrying it involves. You dress yourself and go downstairs. The back end of the Wolf's Head, beyond the green base door, which connects to the foyer and guest accommodations, is Mare's living quarters. Your room is upstairs. Mare herself has a suite of rooms on the ground floor. Mare's kitchen is small, bright, neat, and kept warm on this chilly autumn morning by a stove. Two huge Irish wolfhounds, one white and one grey, recline on a straw mat in front of the stove. Niam kneels between them, petting first one and then the other. Of Misty, the friendly border collie that Mare had when you came here, there is no sign. Mare herself is standing at the kitchen range, busying herself with sizzling bacon, mushrooms, scrambled eggs, and toast. My kind of breakfast. The mingled scents remind you of how long it has been since you have eaten. Tea in the pot on the table, she calls as you come in. I gather you've met Niam. The dogs are Bran and Survivor. The three of you sit down to breakfast. Mare keeps the conversation light. She does not ask you about why you are in Ireland or about the dramatic circumstances under which you have entered her life. You sense that these are topics that she does not want to broach in front of her daughter. But after the breakfast is done and Mare has poured one more cup of tea, she tells Niam to go and play in the sitting room. After the girl has left, she cocks her head to one side and looks at you in silent inquiry. What will you tell her? Do we pour everything out, or do we keep it vague but instructing at least? Bare bones, that is. She has been anything but helpful in these days, and days prior. So personally, I am leaning towards telling her everything. Then again, I am open to other suggestions. And if there are no other suggestions, then I suppose we can go with the last option. Yeah, there is a prudent option. Since when do you have a daughter? I adopted Niam 4 years ago, Mare tells you. It was meant to be a temporary thing. Her parents, just kids they were in desperate circumstances, and I was just to look at her for a while until something more permanent could be found. But, well, I found myself getting used to her, you might say. And so, daughter. Just like that. Mare moves on. You can use my old Jeep while you're here, she says, handing you the keys. I've been meaning to sell it anyway. What have you been doing with yourself? Your dad told me that you joined the British Army. Did you learn nothing from the Irish rebel songs they play around here on a Friday? Royal Marines Commando, Navy, not Army. Mare shrugs. Guns and titles and khaki, it all looks the same to me. Your thoughts turn to the challenges ahead. You are clear on one thing. To have any hope of inner peace, you must finish what began 8 years ago, with Simon's bloody death and Cormac's disappearance at Glenkildove. But what is it that you want? That is a good question. At the end of the day, I think I just want to know the truth. All of it. What is the beast and how did Cormac become it? What is the link to Glenkildove? I have to know. Because if I want to free Cormac from whatever nightmare he's been living, there is no discharge in the werewolves' war with Gaia. We can protect our friends and innocents by ending the beast's reign, but there is no guarantee that anything worse will come once the place is free. And avenging Simon by slaying the beast ties into the second option. And that would be very, very personal. And we can't have that in the war, now can we? So we'll go with the last option. In all of this, it is your own ignorance that haunts you the most. You have had only glimpses at the truth, while those who seem to know more have spoken in dark riddles and cryptic hints. You need to know, no matter how horrifying the truth might be, no matter if learning it kills you or shatters your mind. For this to ever end, everything must be revealed to you. There must be a reckoning. Also title drop. Our drive is curiosity. We're motivated to find out and learn everything that you can about the beast and other things like it. We'll gain bonus experience points whenever we manage to satisfy this need. I have the need. The need for knowledge. Your hunt has begun, but you still know very little. Cormac can't have been the only beast. The stories about it go back the 18th century and Mad Jack Dunbar. Are there other things like him out there? You need to know more. And the place to begin looking is obvious. With Claudia, Daniel and Kitty, the people who were with you on the day of Simon's death. According to Mayor, Kitty still lives locally with her mother and youngest brother, teaching at the primary school in Ballyavon. You'll have to start there. No doubt she'll know where the others are. But it's 11 in the morning and the school won't finish until 3 o'clock. How will you spend the intervening time? Well, obviously we're gonna spend it cleaning and repairing the shotgun we took. It needs to be in prime condition. You take the shotgun to one of the sheds around the Wolf's Head courtyard, where the carpentry tools are kept. There, you remove the barrels and carefully scrape off thick layers of carbon, old oil and rust before spraying solvent across the components and brushing it in with a soft bristled toothbrush. You then swap the inside of the barrel with a cloth and oil the components. Once you reassemble it, the shotgun gleams. It will be a much more reliable weapon in future. By the time you have finished in the shed, it's almost 3 o'clock, and time for you to leave. You drive through Ballyavon. The village as much as you remember it. Houses painted in bright colors, steep and narrow streets, an old stone bridge crossing the sleepy Avonbeg River. St. Colm's is at the heart of the village, right next to the Catholic church that gives its name. It is just a single long building divided into 2 classrooms. It can't serve more than 40 or so pupils, the last of whom you see filing out to where the yellow school bus is waiting for them. You make your way inside to what must be the junior half of the school's classroom. Childish artwork, often dedicated to an endearingly poor spelling to Miss Cullen, is proudly displayed across the walls, along with a variety of cheery posters of cats and ruddy-cheeked angels and alphabets. A chill goes down your spine as you look more closely at one of the children's pictures. It is a snarling figure with a monstrous and wolfish head, towering above a tiny stick figure of a child. It looks startlingly like the image that you saw in the caves all those years ago. The name written on the picture in a childish scroll is Charlie Farrell. Kitty Cullen is seated behind a desk, looking through copybooks. She still dresses and wears her long, dark hair in the same demure, neat manner, but she has changed. Her features have been stamped with a kind of quiet grief, even desolation, that her shy smile cannot conceal. But when she looks up and recognizes you, her eyes seem to light up, and she almost leaps out of her chair. Liam, is it really you? We smile at her from where I'm standing. Why, hello, Miss Cullen. We haven't forgotten her betrayal, after all. She laughs. Ah, Jesus. I get enough of that from the little ones. You have already decided to tell Kitty everything you know or suspect about Cormac and the Beast. She was part of it all from the start. She was with you in the caves below Glenkildove, and later she was among the witnesses to Simon's death on Midsummer's Day. Your guess is that, like you, she has known the truth about Simon's death for a long time, even if her mind concealed it from her in the same way that yours did. I'm here about Cormac, Kitty, you tell her. And then you tell her the whole story. Kitty listens quietly, only occasionally closing her eyes and turning her face aside as though some of the memories you bring back are too painful to bear. There is a long silence after you finish speaking. She heaves a long sigh. When I saw your face, I hoped maybe you were just back to see us. Back to visit Ireland. But I didn't really think so. The Beast, it's more than just an old story. It haunts this place. Everyone knows it, but only the children are willing to talk about it. We can't save Simon, but maybe we could still save Cormac. Either way, we really need to know more. We don't even know what the Beast is. I think I know. The Beast is the devil, or a tool of the devil. We don't need to know any more than that, except how to send it back to hell. How delightfully Catholic. Kitty agrees that you need to talk to the others too. She updates you on their whereabouts. Claudia is an investigative journalist these days for American news of the weird website called Cahoots, living in a peripatetic existence, covering stories around the world. What a way to say living on the periphery. She learned not to earn notoriety early on by exposing widespread corruption on the Wicklow County Council, something that hasn't made her any friends locally. Some of her stories deal with mundane sleaze of this kind, but others are wilder and more lurid. Exposés of cults and bizarre murders and disappearances, stories that come right up to the edge of invoking the supernatural without ever quite doing so. She does a regular series of podcasts for Cahoots. Kitty doesn't know where Claudia is in the world at the moment, but she gives you an email address at Cahoots, to which you send a quick message. How do you feel about what Kitty tells you? I feel strangely proud of Claudia. Unlike the rest of us, even me until recently, she has refused to accept the lies that we were told and the lies we told ourselves. She has kept asking questions, unlike the user that appeared in our chat, which will be smote down by our righteous fury and anger. That's your cue, by the way. Get to it, or I'll beat you to it. Ah, there we go. Beat me to it. Daniel lives and works in Dublin now, making a fortune as an investment banker, although he is presently in Hong Kong on business. He is married. He and Kitty keep up across social media, although you get the impression that they have drifted apart since the days you knew them, when they seemed virtually joined at the hip. Yep, you Vancouver met. Come on now, he can be a vampire. Maybe he's one of them... ghouls. Yeah, that's the word. How do you feel about the news of Daniel? I'm considering the future. Daniel's money might be useful for my investigation. That's more like it. We call him, tell him about our next big investment scheme, extract the money, and then we run. And then there is Oni. Based on Kitty's account, Oni has lived a meandering, aimless kind of existence ever since Simon's death. She's been in trouble with the law for petty crimes a half-dozen times, and sometimes does odd jobs around Ballyavon. Painting, gardening, and the like. She has enough natural talent that she keeps getting work, even though by Kitty's account she's as likely to wander off and leave a job half-finished as she is to complete it. Otherwise, her only real interest in life seems to be getting and staying high. She lives alone somewhere up in the mountains, an old abandoned quarry nicknamed the Magpie's Nest. There is an uncharacteristically irritable note to Kitty's account of Oni's stoner lifestyle. I don't think we'll scare away any newcomers. In fact, people keep on joining us, even if they stay silent for a bit. Do we feel the same way about Oni? So, uncharacteristically irritable note of to Kitty's account of Oni's stoner lifestyle. Do we feel the same way? Oni has always been a total mystery to me. All I can say for sure is that she is connected to Glenkildove in some way, and so I need to speak with her. The stoner things we can overlook for now. Could be a coping mechanism, could be a way to address her hidden powers or some such, so we'll let it slide. Regardless, it is clear that Oni will have to be the first of the others you approach in person. Kitty wants to go with you, but the school will keep her busy for the next couple of days until the weekend. You agree that you'll drive up to Oni's mountain hideaway on Saturday, leaving you with a couple of days to explore other avenues of research. There's something else too, Kitty says. Somebody else disappeared too in Glenkildove. Last year, a teenager called Rory Hannon. He was a foster child here. The McAllisters looked after him. Thomas McAllister is a Presbyterian, a deacon. I'll give you their address. A blaring horn sounds outside. Oh, says Kitty. I forgot. There is a sound of a car door slamming and heavy footsteps crossing a schoolyard. In walks a young red-haired man. He has the imposing physique of a bodybuilder, and his severely cropped red hair and the jagged tattoos crawling down his thick forearms add to his brutal appearance. Come on, Kitty, he says. Get the fuck in the car, I need a fucking drink. Then he sees you. It takes the two of you a moment to place each other, but the moment of recognition comes simultaneously. This is Donagh O'Donnell, one of Cormac's cousins. You last remember seeing him outside the Fox house, backing up his father and grandmother Orla in their attempt to intimidate Simon's parents and your aunt. He seemed like a classless thug then, and time seemingly hasn't improved him. Liam, you remember Donagh, don't you? He's my fiancé. Why did you pose like that? Like what, Donagh? Like that. Like you're ashamed of me or something. Maybe she should be. Because he is obviously a mafia type. Donagh's face flushes purple. He has apparently inherited all of the O'Donnell temper. His fists curl up, and you think for a moment that he might be going to strike you before he regains a measure of control. Kitty looks horrified. Donagh looks at you. Anyway, welcome back. Chid may have failed and all that fucking shite. But here's a little friendly advice. Don't stay very long. Last time you were here, it was a real fucking mess with Cormac and Uncle Terry, wasn't it? Folks get arrested, folks go missing. Our little friend Simon himself getting fucking murdered. That wasn't very nice, was it? I don't want another fucking mess like that, so stay away. And oh yes, say hello to your Auntie Mare for me, won't you? I'm doing an excellent Irish impression, thank you kindly. He throws his head back and laughs, baring brilliantly white teeth. Then abruptly the sound cuts off and he's glaring at you. Then he and Kitty are gone. You consider this development. I'm frustrated. Donagh's involvement with Kitty has the potential to complicate the investigation. In any case, you need to plan your next move. Kitty has given you the address of the McAllisters, the couple who were fostering Rory Hannon, the teenager who went missing last year. They're close by, living just outside Ballyavon, so you decide to go and speak with them. The McAllisters' house sits by itself on a sizable plot set in shady woodland. You make your way up a severely raked path and ring the bell. A much freckled, red-haired boy of about 11 answers it. His appearance is startlingly neat and tidy for a boy of his age, and his eyes are cast down as he politely inquires your business. When you explain that you want to talk to his father, he leads you inside to the kitchen, furnished in an uncompromising style and kept in the same state of immaculate neatness. 3 other children, one other boy and 2 girls, are sitting at the long wooden table, earnestly doing homework. They're watched over by a tall, gaunt man and a small, pale woman. Evidently Deacon McAllister and his wife. McAllister speaks in a flinty northern accent. Ruth, take the children to the sitting room. I will speak with our guest in here. Ruth silently leads the children out, and the deacon shakes your hand with a crushing grip. His pale, unblinking eyes are intent on your face as he gestures for you to sit at the table. My name is Thomas McAllister. What brings you here? You introduce yourself and explain the story you've decided on, that you knew Cormac O'Donnell and are still haunted by his disappearance. When you heard that Rory Hannon has disappeared in the same way, you felt as though you had to know more. One of the older children silently brings you both tea as you speak. McAllister listens in silence to your story. Finally, he speaks. His voice is a deep rumble. Let me ask you a question, Lieutenant Grogan. Do you believe in evil? Yes. Yes, I do. He nods emphatically. Good, then perhaps you'll understand. The deacon stares at his tea for a moment. Those children you saw, and I and my wife look after them. Nobody else will. They come from Dublin. They were born in that wicked city. They were abused and neglected and unwanted. They're the end result of a liberal society where pleasure has dethroned God as king. We take them in, the refuse of the city, and we try to save them. We teach them hard work, discipline, and the fear of God that is the beginning of wisdom. Honestly, just nod along, non-committally. We're more interested in the story of Rory Hannon than in discussing McAllister's opinions. The man has made up his mind, and we're not changing it. Not now, at least. McAllister's eyes darken. Rory Hannon we could not save. That one came with us with the evil of the cities already inside him, tainting his soul. According to McAllister, Rory Hannon's mother was a crack addict. He was taken away from her at an early age and sent through a series of care homes and foster homes and did time in juvenile detention. When he came to live with the McAllisters, he showed a violent, sadistic streak, once even physically assaulting Deacon McAllister himself. From what McAllister says, there was a darkness about the boy, an emptiness behind his eyes that seems to have intimidated even McAllister. With Deacon McAllister unable to control him, Rory took to roaming the woods and hills around Ballyamon, drinking white cider with a few fellow delinquents. Among them were some of the Red O'Donnells. It was from them that Rory first heard of the story of Simon Fox's death. He became obsessed with it and fascinated by the theory that Cormac O'Donnell had carried out the killing as part of a bestial satanic rite. He somehow got hold of crime scene photos of Simon's death and turned his room at the McAllisters into a kind of grotesque shrine, plastering the walls with the gory pictures. He idolized Cormac O'Donnell, interrogating the O'Donnell cousins for any scrap of detail about him. And his favorite place to drink was the scene of Simon's murder, the Standing Stones at Glenkildove. Evil draws to evil. The evil in that boy was the evil of the cities. The evil of the pagan stones at Glenkildove is older. It is the evil of the wild, the elemental spirits of the empty places. Aye, an evil older and stronger than anything in Dublin. An evil strong enough to swallow him up altogether. It seems that one foggy evening out drinking at the Stones, Rory lingered behind after the others. He was in one of his frequent black moods, and so his friends simply let him be. He was never seen again, although Mountain Rescue and the Gardaí searched the hills for weeks. He was swallowed up by the evil of that place, just as Cormac O'Donnell was. They truly were kindred spirits. That is nothing more than God-fearing folk need to know. But surely there must have been some kind of clue or theory or something. There was the usual foolishness about the beast from the Know-Nothings who like to prattle and run their mouths up at the wolf's head. And some believe he ran away, back to Dublin and depravity. But I know the truth. The interview is clearly at an end and you make your way out. But as you make your way down the path, somebody hisses, "Stop!" It's the freckled boy who let you in. He has been waiting for you in the garden. He glances nervously back at the house as he speaks. You suspect he is not supposed to be out here talking to you. His eyes are wide, terrified. "I'm Charlie. You were asking about Rory, weren't you? Claire said you were." You nod. Charlie is tongue-tied for a moment, but finally blurts out, "Are you hunting him? Are you going to slay him?" "No, I just want to understand, that's all. I want to know what happened to him." What, are you going to move to Northern Ireland? Well, I know you're moving at some point to Ireland in the near future, but not the exact location. I say exact location as if I'll be able to visit you at some point in the future. Like, I'm not gonna be stuck here for a while, but that is beside the point. No, you don't understand. I want you to slay him. Charlie explains that Rory was taken in by the McAllisters a few months after Charlie himself. At first, Charlie had liked his new home. The McAllisters were strict, but they never laid a hand on their charges and always made sure that the children had enough to eat and warm clothes to wear. You get the impression that Charlie has had some truly horrific experiences in foster care. But Rory's arrival changed everything. Rory bullied the other children mercilessly and took a special dislike to Charlie. Whenever he got the opportunity, Rory would tell Charlie that he was going to kill him the way Cormac O'Donnell killed Simon Fox. That some night, when Charlie was lying in his bed, Rory would sneak in and cut him to pieces. He showed Charlie the weapon he was going to use, a foot-long serrated zombie knife. Charlie was too scared to tell Deacon McAllister, and he wasn't sure it would have made any difference. "The Deacon was scared of him too," Charlie whispered. Charlie would lie awake in his bed every night, unable to sleep, listening for every creak outside his bedroom door. He thought it was all over when Rory disappeared, but confides in you that lately, strange things had been happening around the McAllister house. Several times late at night, Charlie has heard something padding and snuffing under his bedroom window. He has seen golden eyes glowing in the darkness of the thicket beyond the house. You think of the eyes watching you from the darkness as you climbed up the path to the O'Donnell farmhouse. "He's come back," Charlie says. There is absolute terror in his voice. "He's come back, and he's going to kill me." No, he's not, Charlie. I won't let him. Great going. Let's make a promise that we possibly won't be able to keep. But that child will surely feel better by this point. At the conviction of your voice, Charlie smiles with genuine relief. He has total faith in your promise. You suspect that he'll sleep well tonight for the first time in a year. He turns on his heel and runs back to the house. You walk back to the Jeep, considering what you have been told. You drive away deep in thought. You have a couple of days before you need to meet up with Kitty on Saturday. Your encounter with the Beast at the farmhouse has made it clear to you the kind of terrifying force that you're up against. You'll need to do everything you can to even the odds. The Beast is an animal. From what you've seen, like all the great predators of the natural world, it is overwhelmingly stronger, faster, and has keener senses than any human being. But human beings still rule this world, not grizzly bears or tigers, because of their ability to plan, cooperate, and use tools and weapons. You're going to need those. But here in Wicklow, you're far from the networks you might be able to draw on back in London. Just getting the things you need will be a challenge. Back at the Wolf's Head, you give some thought to what you will need. Weapons are an obvious choice. Your encounter with the Beast shook you. Even though you cannot be sure to what extent mundane weapons can even scratch such a monster, it would still be reassuring to have a weapon. Besides, Donag's hostility was plain. You may have to deal with the O'Donnells and other human beings before your time in Wicklow is at an end. Given how wild and remote the highest Wicklow mountains are, it might be wise to invest in camping gear and supplies. And what if you are badly hurt somewhere out there? Drugs that could keep you going under such circumstances might save your life, while other drugs might even give you an edge against a monster like the Beast, but it won't be easy to obtain them. We have Terry O'Donnell's shotgun, which you have cleaned and repaired. Finally, there are Mayor's dogs, Bran and Survivor. Irish wolfhounds are huge, intelligent, and very loyal. If you could train them, and Mayor allowed you to borrow them, they might be very useful as trackers and guards while you're in Ireland. Honestly, shotgun plus dogs, and we've got the prime English, or rather in this case Irish, countryside hunting experience. The only thing missing is the cappy and a pipe. Now, considering our options, Maybe buying survival gear and supplies first things first is not a bad choice. Spending time with the dogs is also a good one. Well, not buy drugs, because that's a charisma and streetwise check, and we've got charisma 2 and streetwise 0. So that will most likely fail. The first aid kit, well, weapons reserved only for those special times where we fail spectacularly. So we'll have to postpone that one at the very least. So let's start with the dogs. You spend the next couple of days with Bran and Survivor, taking them on walks through the hills and getting them accustomed to your verbal and whistled commands. Bran and Survivor soon get accustomed to your presence and have learned to obey simple commands by Friday evening. Either of them will already be useful as a tracker or a watchdog. By spending more time training them, you'll be able to get them to protect you as well. Mare, seeing the bond that you have formed with the dog, suggests that one of them become your dog while you're in Ireland. She indicates that she'd prefer one remain with her and Niam at all times, but you can take the other with you about Wicklow. You choose Survivor, the grey one, hoping that her name will be a good omen. After eating dinner with Mare and Niam, it's time to go to bed. Tomorrow you have your rendezvous with Kitty. Perhaps Oni will have answers for you. Let's hope I haven't made a mistake. Kitty still lives in the village with her mother and younger brother. All of her other siblings have moved away. From what Mayor has said, it sounds as though her mother is suffering from serious mental health issues. If Kitty didn't look after her, the chances are that she might have starved herself to death within a few months. You wouldn't know from the cottage's freshly painted warm orange exterior and trellis of purple wisteria and clematis, or the neatly kept vegetable garden in the front. Kitty always did like to keep everything just so. She emerges as you look at her, giving you a bright smile. For a moment, you might both be back in your teenage years, going on another trip to Glenkildove or the Vale of Avoca. But then she comes close enough for you to see the lines of sadness and weariness etched into her face, and the illusion slips away. As she gets into the passenger seat, Kitty twists around to give Survivor a scratch behind the ears. The big dog is lying sprawled out across the back seats. She rolls her head back appreciatively. Good girl. According to Kitty, Oni lives by herself high up in the Wicklow Mountains, on the grounds of a flooded quarry a few miles away from Glenkildove. Kitty's never been there in person, just heard second-hand directions, but she knows it will be a long drive. What will you talk about? That is a very good question, honestly. However, let me think about what exactly do we want. I'm thinking... Ask her about why she became a school teacher, huh? I suppose we can do that. Why not? Oh, it's the best job in the world. And the worst one too sometimes. But I love looking after the kids, imagining what they're going to become. In the classroom, I'll see little Daniels sometimes, little Claudias, little Hughes, a little Kitty sometimes. God love them. Little... She trails off. You know that she was about to mention Cormac or Simon, then stopped herself. The silence that follows lasts a long time. As you drive up, out of the valley and into the hills beyond, a soft rain begins to fall, blurring the outlines of everything outside the car. You find yourself thinking about the rainy day that Simon drove you all to Glenkildove, the day that you entered the caves, and how Simon stopped for that tramp, old Tom, on the road. Your memories from that day have taken on a blurred, dreamlike quality themselves. As you climb higher, driving up little-used, muddy, treacherous mountain roads, the rain continues to fall in dense grey veils. The Jeep's GPS seems as unable to function as your phone's up here, and you become lost for a time around the peaks. Survivor in the back becomes restless. Do you want to listen to one of Claudia's podcasts? Kitty suggests. I've always meant to, and sure, this seems like a good time as any. Of course. This might be interesting after all. Kitty gets her phone out and, finding the Cahoots podcast, selects an episode at random and props the phone up on the dashboard. Claudia's voice fills the air. Hello everybody, welcome to Cahoots, where we like our coffee black, our cigarettes unfiltered, and our tinfoil hats crinkly. Today's episode whisks us away to Paris, city of love, on a journey that I sincerely wish could be more romantic and featured fewer phrases like discovered face down in human effluent and partially devoured by rats. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Coppercetic Cryptocurrency. Who wants to be a billionaire? Oh god, she's shilling for crypto. She must really be hurting for sponsors. It's a French podcast. Claudia sets the scene. In 2013, an illegal rave was held in the Paris catacombs. The ravers entered through an outlet they discovered in the Montparnasse area and set up sound equipment somewhere along the grinning skulls and endless piles of bones. During the rave, some of the participants wandered out into the labyrinth, high on cocktail of LSD and MDMA. They caught a glimpse of a stark white face, its huge eyes like great shadowed craters, watching them from the shadows. As further gatherings were held on the same spot, more and more ravers reported seeing Skullface, a dwarfish figure with some 4 feet tall which seemed to shun the light and be capable of skittering away from it with unsettling speed. In 2015, a pair of urban explorers decided to try to learn the truth about Skullface for themselves. Redwayne McClough and Mathilde Borges combed the catacombs, using a map of the various Skullface sightings to guide them. They ultimately found a kind of nest at the center of the catacombs, a hollow space amid the bones, a place that they presumed to be Skullface's home. There was some filthy bedding there and a set of scrapbooks filled with pastel photographs of Parisian ballerinas. The scrapbook contained pictures of dancers going all the way back to 1920s. And there was one other thing. A very old sepia picture of a pretty little girl in a ballerina's tutu and skirt, with one leg raised in an arabesque pose. Well, that sounds awfully familiar with how some Nazis operate. Possibly some Cleopatras, too. It felt like a violation, Mathilde tells Claudia. It felt like we had seen something we shouldn't have, something so private and personal that nobody should have seen it. I knew we would be punished. Soon afterwards, Redwayne disappeared on a foray into the Paris sewers. His body was found a week later, face down in human effluent. It had been partially devoured by rats. Mathilde is now severely agoraphobic. She has not left her 12th floor Saint Lambert apartment in 9 years. Her last sobbing words on the podcast are to beg that unseen watcher in the catacomb for forgiveness. That poor girl, Kitty says. You're not sure who she means, Mathilde or the ballerina in that long-ago picture. As if by mutual agreement, neither of you says anything for some time. Yeah, I'll remind you a little later of that one. It is sunset by the time you arrive at the quarry, which has been dug into a glen between 2 steep hills. Despite the rain, you're glad to get out of the car and breathe some fresh, if damp, air. You open one of the rear doors and Survivor leaps out, sniffing joyously. It seems that somebody else is visiting Oni. Alongside her battered and beat-up white van is a big black SUV. It looks far better cared for and more expensive than any vehicle Oni would ever own, based on Kitty's account. You have parked in a rocky area which overlooks the black, still waters of the flooded quarry like a cliff. There are a handful of half-ruined clapboard buildings from when this quarry was last in use in the 1950s. Oni has made her home in an old aluminium caravan among them. As you approach, you hear voices raised in anger. If we go for the second option, make my way forward stealthily to see if I can overhear what is said without being seen. Dexterity and clandestine. That's dexterity 3, clandestine 2. Could work. Possibly. So let's try that one. And if something does go wrong, we do have the strength and possibly melee to back us up on that one. It is easy enough to avoid making any noise on the wet grass. Kitty shoots you a surprised look as you slip forward, but makes no comment. She holds Survivor back from joining you. Standing just below the mobile home's window, you can hear a cultured American voice speaking. Be calm, Jamie. Audie doesn't mean to cheat us. You don't, do you, Audie? And I know you won't. Not just because we have already paid you in full, although we have. Not just because Jamie could hurt you very badly if you did, although he could. But because it's in your nature. Do you understand, Audie? You are the weird woman. You are the banshee. You are the raven that flies down into the abyss and brings back gifts. We all have our roles to play. Jamie is a warrior, I am a shaman, and you are what you are. There is a muttered response from Oni, but you cannot make it out. You hurry back to Kitty just as the visitors emerge. The caravan door opens and out steps an elderly man, fastidiously well-dressed in a three-piece tweed suit, black fedora, and black patent leather boots that are somehow still gleaming and immaculate despite the mud. His iron gray hair is swept dramatically back from his forehead, and his beard is neatly trimmed. One of the lenses of his glasses is blacked out. Following him like a shadow is a tall and lean younger man. He's dressed in a black t-shirt and combat trousers, and his head is shaved. The two of them look at you as they pass by, and the older man smirks. More customers for the witch woman. Come on, Jamie. Let us leave her to her business, he says, his voice a pleasant, self-assured baritone tinged with an East Coast American accent. He gestures you to the office with a flourish. There is just room to stand inside the caravan as you keep your head low. The door opens onto a hallway, and for a moment, you pause in disorientation. It is as though you are in a vast, glittering space surrounded by crowds and crowds of people. The illusion is dispelled as you realize that Oni has adorned every wall and surface with mirrors and mirror shards, creating an unsettling funhouse effect. Sitting in the small living area on the right is Oni, her pale skin with its fine spray of freckles, her huge blue eyes and long, white blonde hair as striking as ever. Oni looks to you from Kitty, and then again. You remember me, she says at last. What? Of course we remember you. We came here to see you. No, wait. We're patient. Recall that for some reason this was one of Ani's strange obsessions, the idea that everybody would forget who she was. Yes. We still remember you. You're Ani Madigan, and we need your help. Ani's sudden smile is like sunlight breaking. For a moment, happiness transforms her face. Thank you. I know I can always count on you. Ani gestures that for the two of you to sit down on stools by the counter. She sets about making tea. You have left Survivor outside. She needs a little fresh air and exercise, and you know that she will not stray far from you. Who were those two? Them? Oh, they're just my friends. They didn't sound very friendly when we arrived. Friends fight sometimes. Sure, isn't that right, Kitty? For some reason, Kitty turns pale and is reduced to silence by this seemingly banal remark. Oh, she knows. She knows what happened on the night Simon died. Cups of steaming tea in mismatched mugs in front of you. You explain that what has brought you here and the horrifying truths that your encounter with the beast brought home to you. We know how mad it sounds, but you... Kitty appears to struggle with a tactful way to phrase what comes next. You always seemed like you knew things. Back then. Like when you went and got Miss Mokrani and when we were in the caves. Ani stirs her tea without answering for a while. I don't remember all that much from back then. I remember him, she says, indicating you. But there are a lot of blanks. I'm missing days, weeks sometimes, and the memories that are there are all jumbled up together and sometimes don't make any sense. It's horrible. And it's very confusing, obviously. Poor love. That sounds rough. No, we're not feigning sympathy. We are sympathetic. I'm so sorry, Ani. Ani barely seems to hear you, but Kitty nods, clearly appreciating your compassion. I've tried to understand why your friend was killed, why it all happened, and keeps happening. Ani proceeds to lay out a secret history, one that she has put together from folklore and seemingly her own hunches and intuitions. A long time ago, the British Isles were known as Myrddin's Precinct, or the Isles of the Mighty. They were the home of the ethereal Danann, mighty craftsmen and magicians, a race so far above humanity that they could be considered gods. They would ride out across the sea on their fiery steeds, their terrible hunting hounds at their side, and capture such humans as caught their fancy to bring them back to their strongholds to serve as slaves. But a reckoning was coming. Humans developed a new weapon that was effective against the Danann: cold iron. They invaded Britain to liberate their kin and drove the Danann into their most remote redoubts, in the mountains of Wales, in the Scottish Highlands, and across the sea to Ireland. As humanity grew stronger, they forced the Danann even from those hiding places and into the other place. The other place? Asks Kitty. Oni nods. Where they first came from. You might call it Hell, or Tir na Nog, or the Land of Roots. There are various entrances to the other place around Ireland. The caves beneath Glenkildove are one of them. Oni believes that the mycelial network of mushrooms that grows there is partly rooted in our world and partly in the other place. Thanks to his knowledge of the occult, Mad Jack Dunbar was able to summon up a pack of the Danann's hunting hounds from the other place, but lost control of them, and they tore him apart. Ever since then, they have stalked Glenkildove. Most of the time, they look like huge wolves, but at full moon, they can take on a towering wolf monster form. We call them the Beast, says Oni, her eyes wide, as though there were just one. But there are 5. Sometimes I hear them at night, padding around the caravan or howling at the moon. They only come out at night. You can tell that Kitty is incredulous. Then, how did Cormac become one? She asks. Liam is sure now that he saw Cormac turning into a monster right before what happened. Oni shakes her head. That was not Cormac. Your friend Cormac died in the caves, the first time you went there. The leader of the hounds, the worst of them, he can change his shape, become a man or a wolf or a monster whenever he chooses. He just pretended to be your friend for a year until he got bored of the pretense. Maybe he was that young fella who disappeared too, that Rory Hannon. Kitty looks doubtful. How do we feel about Oni's theories? We think there are probably fragments of the truth in there, but I don't think Oni is right about most of it. After all, myths can get warped through time. And if the Beast of Glenkildove is a hereditary title, then Cormac is Cormac. And the Beast is Cormac. A beast. I can tell you don't believe me, Oni tells Kitty. That sister who came here the other day didn't believe me either. Kitty frowns. What sister? What are you talking about? Ah, yeah, I was going to tell you. A sister came up here, a nun. She came from Nigeria. Sister Judith was her name. She was asking about the Beast and Cormac and all of it too. I told her what I told you, but she didn't believe me. She said she was from the Society of Saint Leopold. She said killing things like the Beast was her job. Ah, there we go. There's our first potential ally. The Society of Saint Leopold? Have either of you heard of it? Kitty shakes her head. Saint Leopold was German, I think. Or maybe Austrian. But I've never heard of an order named after him. Kitty has been thinking over what Oni told about the nun. I've heard there's a sister staying with Father Matt. It must be the same woman. If she's looking for the Beast, we should join forces. Maybe she knows a way to help Cormac. Let's visit her tomorrow. While you have been talking, the sun has set and it is dark outside. A sudden spatter of rain against the window of the caravan makes everyone jump. It has turned from its daytime drizzle into a downpour. Survivor, who has been happy outside up until now, scratches frantically at the door. When you let her in, she dashes whimpering behind the shelter of your legs. The big dog is shivering with the inexplicable fear. Then a howl breaks the silence, a sound you know too well. It is joined by several more. Kitty screams and you feel cold sweat beating your forehead, while even Oni goes pale. "They'll be abroad tonight then," she says, collecting herself. "The two of you can't go back tonight. If they catch your scent on the breeze, they'll run you down and tear you apart. You can stay in the caravan. I have a couple of sleeping bags." Kitty shakes her head. No, I can't stay out tonight. My mom and Dare would be worried sick." Based on what you know of Kitty's mother, you suspect that Kitty's worry is more that her mother can't really look after herself without Kitty to watch over her. A range of expressions too quick to follow pass across Oni's face. "You'll do what you must," she says finally. "But God guard you if you take the road tonight." Kitty hesitates. She was clearly as disturbed as yourself and Oni by the howling. It is torn between her fears for her mother and her fear of the night outside. And the howling creatures out there aside, driving down those mountain roads in this rain-swept darkness will be no easy feat. What will you do? First option, Kitty needs to go back to her mother. I will get us home whatever the risks. Composure and driving, or dexterity and driving. Composure 3, dexterity 3, driving 0. So no, that's not an option. This is the perfect opportunity to learn more about the threat I'm up against. I'll wait for the howling to die down and then go out and look for their tracks. Resolve and survival. Resolve 4, survival 1. Could work with a bit of a coin toss. I'm going to wait for the beasts to move on, then take Survivor out to follow them by scent. Takes in our relationship with Survivor, or Charisma and Leadership. Charisma 2, Leadership 0, but relationship with Survivor is... No idea. But could work. Definitely could work. And lastly, I'm gonna take Oni's advice and persuade Kitty that we need to spend the night here. I am personally leaning more towards the third option. But what about you? The viewers, what do you think is the best possible option we have? I'm gonna wait for a little bit, and then if there are no other options, then I think I'm going to go with the third option. So, Resolve and Survival, once again. That should be Resolve 4, Survival 1. Not a bad option, per se. Possibly the best one we have, because we're definitely not taking the first one, because that's driving, and we have 0 in driving. While the third is Relationship with survivor, which we have, or charisma, 2, leadership, 0. Ultimately, the choice is yours. But I am leaning towards either of these two options. Leaning towards 2, and as for you, Charles, what do you think? Well, yeah, obviously the stats are the big draw here. We have stats spread out all over the place, honestly. Some more lacking than the others. Save us, white boy. If only we were to hear from him. I can still hear his voice going, gay, gay, homosexual, gay. And yet, he has left us. In the most dire hour of need, he vanished. Woe is us. We'll have to make a choice without him. And that choice will be eeny, meeny, miny, mo, get the tiger by the toe. Third option. There is a tense mood in the caravan while you wait, grimly counting down the minutes. Oni takes out some papers and a baggie full of weed, rolls herself a joint on the grimy kitchen countertop, and lights up. The caravan fills with the unmistakable piney, skunky smell of marijuana smoke. Kitty shoots Oni a sour look. Oni, either misunderstanding her or sardonically affecting too, offers her the joint. Kitty refuses it with a wrinkle of her nose. Oni waves the joint at you. Sure thing. So, Oni offers us the booth. Do we accept? No. We need to stay focused and intent on the work ahead. Half an hour passes by. This is the most you can allow the beasts to get ahead. Any more on a rainy night like this and their scent will be washed away altogether. You whistle to Survivor to come out with you. To your surprise, Oni comes along as well, following Kitty out. She shrugs off your inquiring glance. If you're going out there, you'll need me too. Besides, I like your dog. She scratches an appreciative Survivor under the ears. Outside, the rain has returned to a thin drizzle and there is a glimmer of moonlight through the clouds. It's once again a relief to breathe fresh air after the closed confines of the caravan. At first, Survivor needs little encouragement to rush about, sniffing at the ground. However, she suddenly stops and begins to cringe and whimper, exactly as she did when the howling started. There's something at once pitiable and frightening at the sight of this big, wiry-haired dog reduced to such a state of panic. There can be little doubt that she has caught the scent of your prey, and that she does not wish to follow it. Perhaps she's smarter than you. No amount of argument, coaxing, or cajoling will persuade Survivor to go anywhere near the places that she scents the howling beasts. You are forced to give up and return to the caravan, Survivor pressing close to your legs. Oni sets out sleeping bags for you and Kitty on either side of the kitchen, and Survivor curls up alongside you. She's still shivering and seems to crave the warmth of her human against her. There is little to be done except to bed down and get what little sleep you can before tomorrow morning. Survivor lies down next to you. Her warmth is comforting enough that even the powerful odor of a wet dog is not enough to make you shove her away. Should have seen that one coming, honestly. The dogs fear werewolves. After a hasty breakfast of Weetabix and tea, all that Oni has to offer you, you drive back to Glenkildove. Kitty is quite frantic to check in on her mother, so you drop her off at her cottage first before driving to the Wolf's Head. Parking around the back of the Wolf's Head, you notice an unfamiliar car in Mayor's private parking area. A sleek red Tesla. You enter the kitchen through the back door. Seated at the kitchen table while Mayor fries eggs at the range, a young woman dressed in a white baby chorus t-shirt and ripped black jeans, a black leather jacket slung over her chair, her expression below her shades hard and wary. Her hair has been dyed blue and is arranged in a chaotic, spiky halo around her head. Opposite her sits a young man, his dark, delicate good looks accentuated by his clothes, which somehow manage to look casual and yet expensive. It takes you a moment to recognize Claudia Fox and Danielle Owen. Danielle raises an eyebrow. Finally here? Let's talk about Cormac. Claudia, what have they done to you? You've turned into a manic pixie dream girl! Then again, a blessing to some. Chapter 4. The Blooding. There is no beast which runneth faster than a wolf. When he is hunted with hounds, he flieth not far before him. He keepeth the covert like the bear and the boar, and especially the beaten ways within. Night is the usual time of his preying, though hunger will force him to hunt by day. He is more subtle and crafty than the fox or any other beast. When he is hunted, he will take all his advantages, but keep himself in breath and force always. Nicholas Fox, The Gentleman's Recreation. That is quite a story, Daniel says. He is lounging, eyes half closed, in the window seat of Mayor's sitting room. Mayor herself has taken Niam out for a walk. I believe it though, Claudia puts in. She is leaning against the wall alongside him, arms folded. Kitty, who has come over to the Wolf's Head to join this meeting, sits at the table. It appears that Claudia received your email in Athens, where she was working on a story. That's another tie-in to the other choice of vampire games. She booked a flight back to Dublin and met up with Daniel, who drove them both down to Wicklow. You have told them everything that happened since you got Cormac's message and of how you came to realize the truth about Simon's death. Kitty supplies a few details here and there, such as your trip to see Oni and Oni's theory that the beast is actually a pack of hunting hounds for the Danan, the elder race which supposedly once ruled the British Isles. You update your friends on the decision that you and Kitty made to visit Sister Judith today. Daniel looks at Claudia, cocking his head to one side. You believe it? He says he's too neutral. Claudia holds. It's a weird, horrible fucking world, Daniel. Believe me, I've been out there. Claudia goes on to tell her own story. She'd never believed that Simon's death could have been an animal attack. What made her angry was how desperate her parents seemed to be to accept the incredibly flimsy official story and move on. Like living in a sane, safe world again was more important than the truth about what happened to their son, Claudia says bitterly. I'm gonna back her up on this. A lot of people choose to ignore the truth. Fucking men! Unable to tolerate the apathy of her parents and everyone else around her, Claudia left home at the age of 18 and lived a peripatetic life for peripatetic. Why can't you just say lived on the periphery like normal people, you writers? I'm gonna strangle you. Never mind. She lived on the periphery for a few years, living at various times in North America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. She eventually fell into working for Cahoots after an article she did on the notorious Viper Club shootout in Tucson, Arizona. Oh, and that's another reference to the very first game, Vampire the Masquerade Night Road. That one's pretty good. We will need to try it out at some point. It's that good. Believe me. She specialized in gruesome murders. Claudia came to be convinced that there was a vast conspiracy or cult responsible for hundreds of deaths every year, and that Simon's was among them. They took great care to cover up evidence of their existence in the prosperous regions of the globe, but they often got sloppy elsewhere. As Claudia tells it, they seemed to treat slums, battlefields, and refugee camps as their personal playgrounds. 2 years into her investigations, Claudia came to a conclusion. The perpetrators of these murders were not human. They were capable of bestial transformations like the one you witnessed at Glenkildove, of feats of superhuman strength and speed. They seem to feed on blood and be nearly impossible to kill. Claudia feels certain that these creatures are the origin of myths about werewolves and vampires, as well as the center of the stories that Oni told you of the Danan and their hunting grounds. There are factions among them, and secret wars. She is getting close there. Claudia has met and exchanged information with others like her, hunters, as they tend to call themselves. Some of them are clearly erratic conspiracy theorists. Some are neo-Nazis and fellow travelers trying to promote their own hateful, vapid ideology. Even when other hunters seem relatively lucid, Claudia has kept her distance. In this paranoid world, no one is to be trusted. She's heard rumors of organizations that exist to study and combat the monsters, but so far, none of them has contacted her. Claudia has not yet gone public with her claims. On her podcast, she dances around outright stating the existence of the supernatural, instead of relying on hints and innuendo, or letting interview subjects make certain claims on her behalf. She's seen several hunters try to come clean about their findings, only to have their reputations destroyed, and their lives ruined by concentrated attacks from the monster's puppets in the media. Ever heard of Annie Skeen in Indiana? They had a SWAT team hit her home after she published a book, Autobiography of the Hunter. And that's another one. Remember Out for Blood? Because Annie Skeen was there. And we ran off with her at the end of that one. She shakes her head. If it's what they want, she says. A few crazies like Keen speaking up from time to time and getting torn apart in the media is good for them. It makes the whole idea sound more ridiculous to the average person, and it's meant to put the fear of God into other hunters. But me? It gives me hope. What you missed was us needing to make a decision on how to proceed, and, well, you weren't there, so we made the wrong choice, and that went nowhere. You'll probably see it later. Wait, what? Why would it give you hope? It gives me hope because it shows me they're scared of us. There's a reason that they don't rule us openly. It's because if we ever woke up and united against them, there'd be a war. And it's a war we would win. No matter how powerful they are, there are billions of us, and fighting wars is one thing we're really good at. But to start that war, we need proof. Real proof. Something that they just can't delete or twist or cover up. Now, I think maybe we can find that proof here in Glenkildove. Call it Simon's Revenge. You're talking like they're all one thing, but you said yourself there are factions and they fight each other. Do we know they're all equally bad? Kitty nods emphatically, clearly finding your reasoning persuasive. We don't, Claudia concedes. In fact, there's a lot we don't know. Maybe they're not all killers and monsters, but we can't know until we've pulled down all the screens and veils they hide behind. Then there'll be a reckoning. Roll once more credits. That's a term hunters use. It's like judgment. Judgment for what they've done to us. To all of us. Maybe some will be pardoned, others won't be, but we'll decide. Not them. Daniel has said nothing since Claudia's story began, his expression unreadable. Finally, he speaks. I believe Liam. I believe Claudia. I've always known there are monsters in this world, and I have known for quite a while that the richest and most powerful monsters are really running the show. It doesn't really change that much if some of them have fur and fangs. It's cosmetic, you know. But you're kidding yourselves if you think you're going to bring them down. So what are you Claudia looks at him. So what are you going to do? Just give up and go home? Nope. First, I say we kill Cormac. Then, we all go home. Daniel! Kitty interjects with horror, but Daniel ignores her. You're all overthinking this. We can't help Cormac. He's out of control. He tore Simon apart. Liam saw him. And a blurry video of something big and hairy in the Wicklow Woods isn't going to bring down an all-powerful global conspiracy. But there is one thing we can do, and that's kill him. He's dangerous. He's already killed Simon and now tried to lure Liam into a trap. Any of us, any of our families could be next. Kitty's brother, Liam's aunt, Claudia's parents, mine, you'd be risking them all. No. Find Cormac, kill him, bury him in an unmarked grave in the hills, then we'll have a nice cup of tea. What do you think, Liam? Asks Claudia. You want to know more about the beast and the mysteries of Glenkildove, a perspective with which Claudia is in sympathy. So obviously we'll say, Claudia's right. There is a bigger picture there. We need to prove that the beast exists, but nobody will believe us unless we can capture it, or at least get some evidence that it's real. Claudia grins, eyes sparking. For a moment, she looks the way she used to, the haunted look gone from her eyes. Now you're talking. Capturing the thing that you describe, alive? Daniel murmurs skeptically. Sounds easier said than done. It's not an it, puts in Kitty stubbornly. It's a he. It's our friend. It's Cormac. Although the group does not agree on your ultimate goals, you all know that you have to find Cormac. Daniel and Claudia agree to join you and Kitty in visiting Father Matt and questioning the mysterious Sister Judith. Father Matt will be busy with preparations for Mass at the moment, so you will need to wait until the evening. The others have all arrangements to make so that they can be ready to join you in the hunt. Kitty needs to arrange a substitute teacher for her class at school for the next week, Daniel needs to call Dublin, and Claudia has to finish editing and recording the latest episode of her podcast. You have Sunday afternoon to yourself. How will you spend it? So, practice with my gun, that should be either either awareness or... No, that's firearms, obviously. I will take Survivor out and train her some more. Possibly charisma. Or, no, leadership. Definitely leadership. I will do some research into local lore concerning wolves, werewolves, and the beast. That's... academics. I will hang around the wolf's head and get the latest gossip. That should be... streetwise, I suppose. I will build up my endurance by going for a long jog. That's... possibly... composure, or I suppose something else. Not quite sure, honestly. I will build up my hand-eye coordination by playing squash at a local sports center. Well, that's definitely... awareness. And finally, I will build up my strength by lifting weights at the local sports center. And that's athletics. I am personally leaning more towards taking Survivor out to train her some more, possibly. This will help us with leadership. Or buffing up our academics a little bit by doing some research into local lore. But what do you think? Okay, one vote for lore, and another one. Torn between pew pew and getting swole. Actually practice with your gun. Well, what do you know? I will practice with my gun. You take an armful of empty bottles from the Wolf's Head bar and go out into the woods beyond the inn. There you find a secluded clearing and arrange them along the wide tree stump, then walk back to the edge of the clearing. Lifting the shotgun off your shoulder, you take aim and squeeze the trigger. Glass shatters. You break open the barrels, reload, and fire again. You keep practicing the entire routine, each time setting yourself the goal of shaving just a second or two off your previous time. By the end of your practice session, your arms are ache and your vision is blurred, but the shotgun feels like an extension of your body. By the end of your session, you feel you have come to understand and account for the quirks of your weapon. As long as you keep practicing, it will be a major asset for you on the hunt. Up next album, let's go for this one. You gather the others together. Danielle and Claudia have booked adjoining rooms at the Wolf's Head, but you need to wait for Kitty. She enters babbling apologies. Sorry. Donna Krang and I... It's true then? You're engaged to Donna O'Donnell? But you always thought he was a total prick. Well, he's changed now. So he's like 3/4 prick instead of a total prick? Kitty mutters something, but she is beginning to look angry. Meanwhile, Claudia is rolling her eyes in exasperation with both of them. Speaking of, let's look at our stats. Don't see any immediate changes. Look, we've got things to do. This bickering can wait. Thank you, Claudia says. Jesus, the two of you haven't changed since we were kids. You were constantly in each other's business. It wasn't healthy. Yeah, well, Daniel says. You were in everybody's business all the time back then, but you sure seem healthy and well-adjusted as fuck now, Miss Black Helicopter Screw Crime Conspiracy Theorist. Actually, I changed my name to Claudia. It's a version of a joke that Simon used to make. My agent thinks it's a catcher. It's catchier. The awkward silence between Daniel and Kitty is still lingering. You get into the jeep, with Daniel wordlessly taking shotgun and drive down into the village. The priest's house next to St. Colm's is an attractive little red brick structure with moss growing on the roof. Father Matt O'Donnell opens the door. He looks as though he has agreed more than the 9 years have passed since you last saw him. Or aged, excuse me. His hair is much more grey than red now, and his eyes are sunken and red-rimmed. Liam, I wondered if you were coming to see me. And Daniel, and Claudia, and Kitty. Father Matt leads you down a little stone-floored hallway lined with mud-encrusted Wellingtons and hiking boots into a kitchen. A bottle of Jameson sits on a table along with a solitary glass. Can I offer you a drink? Asks Father Matt. In the closer confines of the kitchen you can smell the whiskey on his breath. I suppose you're all of age now? Claudia shakes her head. We're here to see Sister Judith, Father. We're here to talk about the beast. The priest's face falls. I was afraid you might be. He opens a far door. Sister Judith, Liam Grogan and the others are here. They want to talk about the beast. Sister Judith is an African woman in her early 30s. She is dressed in the black and white habit of her order, her head shaven clean. She is lean and tall, her features sharp and angular. The eyes behind her black-rimmed glasses are very cold and very clear. The moment she comes into the room through the far door, she seems to take control. You notice that her movements are marked with the same economy and precision with which you yourself have been trained to move. Although her face is calm, her gaze sweeps across the room as though to note potential threats, weapons, points of exits, and entry. She has had military training. You are sure of it. Go, take your whiskey somewhere else, she says to Father Matt. Her voice is dispassionate, tinged with a Nigerian accent. I will talk to them. As though completely used to being ordered around this way in his home, Father Matt gathers up his Jameson and glass and leaves by the same door that Sister Judith entered. She waits for him to leave, her expression impassive. A whiskey priest. Weak, flabby, full of good intentions, full of compromises, full of doubt. The church is filled with his kind these days. Pray for Bally, Avon, having just a man like him to defend it from the darkness. He might like the drink a little too much, but Father Matt is a good man. She shakes her head. No, he's a nice man, not a good one. Sister, our friend Oni says you were asking her questions about Simon Fox and Cormac O'Donnell in the Beast of Glenkildove, Kitty puts in. We think you might be able to help us understand what happened to our friend. Sister Judith looks at her silently for a long time. The world is a dark forest. People move to and fro on the paths between settlements. They go about their business. They do not know there are predators beyond the path. They do not know there is anything beyond the path. Now and again, on the loneliest and darkest paths, they hear a rustle of leaves. They see glowing eyes watching them. They convince themselves it was nothing. And every now and then, on one of those lonely paths, the predators pounce, and the person is no more. This is what happened to your friend Simon Fox 8 years ago. This is what almost happened to your friend here last week. And Cormac O'Donnell was swallowed up by the dark forest too, in a far more terrible way. He was tainted by sin. Yes, well, thanks for that little parable. Lots to think about there, for sure. Lots of rich imagery, lots of meaningful symbolism, Daniel puts in. But we were hoping for an explanation to a little more concrete than the world is a dark forest. So if we shut up Daniel, that's a roll on resolve and leadership. Resolve 4, leadership 0. So not likely to succeed. And we'll spoil our relations with Daniel, most likely. Let's be a little rational then. You describe the predators of the dark forest as evil but predatory animals in our world. But predatory animals in our world aren't good or bad. They just are. Aren't werewolves the same? She shakes her head in disgust. No. No, they are not. Sister Judith lifts up the chain of the pendant that hangs around her neck, a cross terminating in a sword blade. This is the symbol of the Society of Saint Leopold. We walk the paths of the dark forest. We hunt through its deepest shadows. We bring light to the dark places. And Glenkildove is a very dark place. According to Sister Judith, a man was killed a week ago in Dublin, the same day on which you get the call from Cormac. The man was a drug dealer and he was killed outside a homeless shelter in North Dublin. He was ripped apart, exactly the same way that Simon Fox was almost 10 years ago. Cormac, breathes Claudia. Sister Judith nods. Sister Judith has heard about Simon Fox's murder and the similarities struck her. By questioning some of the shelter's residents, she was able to get a description of the man who must have carried out the killing. A young, red-haired man, a homeless junkie, and occasional resident of the shelter, whom some remembered playing the fiddle from time to time and who was from Wicklow by his accent. The slain dealer's employers, the notorious Duffy gang, were out to get him. Judith guessed that this homeless man was Cormac, and furthermore that he'd flee back to the hills of his home, obeying the instincts of a hunted animal. So you came back here to kill him, Kitty says, her voice accusatory. But Judith shakes her head. No, not just him. I will kill him, but I cannot stop with him. I have to end this cycle. I have to kill the beast. The Duffy gang? Weren't they the ones working with the Red O'Donnells selling cannabis 8 years ago? The O'Donnells grew the weed and the Duffys sold it in Dublin. Sister Judith nods. Yes, and I do not think the connection is chance. There is something there, something dark, something that eludes me as yet. Seeming to shake the thought off, she returns to the topic of the beast. Some of these creatures can live for centuries. Some, the ones called vampires, feed on human beings, and others enslave humans, turning them into monsters like themselves. The beast is the evil that has haunted Glenkildove for centuries. I believe that it was once a mortal man, the one called Mad Jack Dunbar. He used his dark art to turn himself into a creature of the night, then gathered a cult of mortal worshippers around him. This place can never be safe until I have slain him. But first I must kill those that he has turned to his service, has made into something like himself. It is one of the oldest rites of witchcraft, practiced in dark corners of the world ever since the days of Lycaon. A child is kidnapped, and the demon is summoned into their body in a foul, obscene ceremony. It grows with them, turning them into something as much beast as human being. It was done to your friend Cormac as a child, likely at the standing stones of Glenkildove. Ever since then, the demon in him has been warring with a man. The man lost that battle on the day he killed Simon Fox, and with that man perished his immortal soul. That's not what Oni said. Oni said that the beasts are 5 hellhounds summoned up by Mad Jack Dunbar, but that they killed him. She thinks that they can change their shape and that one of them pretended to be Cormac for a while, though I don't believe her about that. You should not trust anything said by Oni Madigan, Judith says severely. I sense that she is touched by the same darkness as the beast. Perhaps she is in league with him. If so, she will face a reckoning. No, we're gonna protect her. We're gonna protect our manic pixie dream girl number 2. On weed. Oni is my friend. I know she would never let us down. Sister Judith looks sour and shakes her head. Meanwhile, Claudia has been looking thoughtful. When we arrived, Father Matt seemed to have been half expecting us, and you seem to know who we are right away. You've been watching us, haven't you? Judith nods. Ever since Liam came back to Ireland, I have been keeping track of him and Miss Cullen. Cormac is drawn to all of you. I know he will attack one of you again. He won't be able to help himself. In doing so, he will reveal himself to me and I will strike. I'm sure that will be a great comfort to our eviscerated remains, Daniel mutters. I will save you if I can, Mr. On. These are dangerous times. I have told you as much as it is safe for you to know. It is your turn. Tell me what you have learned. I guess we're not making friends with the Society of St. Leopold in this run, so I suppose we can just give them a brief outline of our investigations so far, but keep every truly significant finding to ourselves. We don't trust Judith or her Society of St. Leopold, and I want to maintain a strategic advantage. Whatever it is. Because Charles here does seem to know what Society of St. Leopold entails for our little town, doesn't he? I'd like to think that. Especially if he can vocalize that. Ah, yes. Judith's eyes narrow as you speak. You sense that she realizes that you are holding some things back and is furious, but nothing shows outwardly. I see. I will give you this word of advice. Do not lie to an inquisitor of the Society of St. Leopold. It is rarely a wise course of action. Ah, but you see, I didn't lie. I merely withheld the truth. Different thing. My soul remains pure. Claudia has been listening intently. I'm all for free exchange of information, but I get the impression this is more than that. You want to work together, don't you? Judith's mouth twists as though she bit into something sour, but she reluctantly nods. I do not like using lay hunters. You are unprepared for the darkness that myself and my brethren must face. But I have no choice. Time is running short. I cannot do what needs to be done alone, and there is no time to wait for reinforcements from Rome. So I must make use of what is available. Why should we help you? You want to kill Cormac? Judith looks at Kitty. I am not the only one in these hills searching for Cormac O'Donnell. There are 5 of these creatures, these werewolves as they are called in Europe. At night they take on the guise of wolves and they hunt. They are hunting for O'Donnell. Why? Isn't he one of them? Evil consumes itself. These creatures of darkness often find secret wars amongst themselves. This I think you know. One of them fought with Cormac up in the hills the night he came here. I found traces of the struggle. So they want to kill Cormac. Maybe it's because he's not like them. Maybe he's trying to stay human, Kitty says. Since discovering evidence of the fight, Judith has been up in the hills every night trying to track the wolves' movements. By her own account, creatures such as these are far too dangerous to approach when they're all together. But they separate during their nightly hunts for Cormac, giving her a chance to separate one from the pack and capture and interrogate it. But tracking and keeping up with a werewolf on the hunt is an impossible task for a single human. She needs your help. Kitty has been listening avidly. I'll help you, sister. At least until Cormac is safe from these things. Claudia nods. We need to learn more, and this is our best chance. Daniel is in as well. I'd rather just wait until they tear Cormac limb from limb, but I'm not gonna let you risk your lives up there without my help. I've already lost our one friend to the beast. I guess I'm outnumbered then. We're siding with a member of Society of St. Leopold. You agree that you'll meet tomorrow morning at the Stump, the ruins of an old Norman castle that once stood over Ballyavon, and begin searching for the previous night's trail. You head out to the car. Well, Daniel says, if tomorrow we're all gonna get torn apart by monsters protecting our friend, the nice monster, I for one am gonna go into the pub tonight. Anyone wants to join me is more than welcome. Claudia shakes her head. Nah, I've got to record a podcast about all this for cahoots. She turns to you. Why don't you come with me? You actually saw Cormac transform when it happened. An eyewitness to a werewolf transformation. And I promised Mare I'd babysit Liam tonight, Kitty puts in. She's going out to a theater in Kilkenny. Let's go with Claudia then. We'll go back to Claudia to her room at the Wolf's Head to be interviewed for her podcast. Claudia has a room in the Wolf's Head proper. When you get back there, she begins setting up her laptop to record and taking out her mics. You glance through her podcast titles on the Cahoot's website while Claudia sets up. Silas Bleakrest, Study of a Killer, Lambda Mankind, Saviors or Terrorists, Finding Sublime Tranquility, Innocence Lost, La Croisade de l'Enfant, The Church of the Children of the Angelic Host, Malmo Berlin Express, Disturbance of the Petting Zoo, The Two Deaths of Nathaniel Arcady. If you recall, Silas Bleakrest was another reference to Out for Blood. I've done a podcast for Cahoots for a couple of years now, Claudia explains. Cults, organized crime, serial killers, cover-ups, illicit government experiments, fun and games. Usually it's just one and done, but the Beast gets serious. She's already recorded the first installment and plays it for you. It covers the mythology surrounding the Beast and Mad Jack Dunbar, then goes over the deaths and disappearances associated with the Beast. There are many stories of hikers, tourists, or hunters going missing in the Wicklow Mountains, all of which at least somebody is willing to attribute to the Beast of Glenkildove. But there are just a handful that Claudia has been able to verify as based on more than just rumor. There was an American couple, the Wilsons, who were on a tour out of Ireland in 1975. Ted Wilson was an amateur archaeologist and became deeply interested in the standing stones at Glenkildove and the caves beyond them, and he and his wife stayed on at the Wolf's Head. This was long before your Aunt Mare came to run it, in order to explore them. One day they simply did not return. The caves were searched, but no trace of them was ever found. Then there was Noriko Hiraoko, a Japanese student who came to Ireland for the summer of 1987. Noriko was working at a bar in Dublin and came down to Wicklow for a weekend's hiking. She disappeared into the hills and was never seen again, although her distraught parents came to Ireland several times to coordinate the search. There were a number of odd things about the Hiraoko case. Among them was the fact that, according to her parents, Tokyo-born Noriko had never shown any previous interest in hiking or outdoors activities. There were also rumors that she'd fallen in with a bad crowd in Dublin, that the bar she'd been working at was a known gangland location, and perhaps her disappearance had something to do with that. Finally, after Simon's death and Cormac's disappearance added to the Beast's bloody legend, Claudia covers Simon's death objectively, going into the details with clinical detachment of how his body was ripped apart. There is the familiar story of Rory Hammond. Much as McAllister told you, Rory was a foster child, born in one of Dublin's most deprived and squalid inner-city areas. His troubled upbringing left him with a violent streak. After a stint in juvenile detention, he had been taken in by the McAllisters but continued to cause trouble, starting fights, going on wild drinking sprees, and terrorizing his foster parents. He and his friends sometimes liked to drink white cider and Poitin at the Standing Stones in Glenkildove. Rory enjoyed its associations with Simon Fox's death. His friends left him alone there one foggy evening. He was not seen again. Now, says Claudia, time for part 2. Our audience wants to know more about the Beast. Let's blow their weird little minds. She switches the mic on and speaks in a wry monotone. It's Sunday evening, 8 p.m., October 26th, 2023, and I'm at the Wolf's Head Inn, County Wicklow, Ireland. I'm Claudia Fox, intrepid girl reporter, and you are the various conspiracy nuts, gore hounds, hipsters, oddballs, and covert government surveillance teams who want to hear what's really going on. It's beautiful that we found each other. Now, last time we talked about the Beast of Glenkildove, a cryptid with a body count. And here is where things get really weird, so if you don't think you can handle it, I strongly suggest you turn this frightening tape off and go listen to soothing whale song or some shit. Just how weird? Werewolves. That's how weird. I have here Liam Grogan, an eyewitness to the slaying of my brother Simon Fox on June 24th, 2015. Liam, tell us what you saw. While Claudia speaks, you have been thinking, how much are you prepared to reveal? Based on Claudia's stories, you might be placing yourself in great danger by going public with what you saw, not to mention endangering your future employment prospects by coming across as an insane conspiracy theorist. But Claudia clearly wants you to speak out. So, do we tell the whole story without omission? How we saw Cormac transform into a monster and kill Simon but block the memory out, and about an hour later encounter with him in the O'Donnell farmhouse? Or do we say that we think we saw Cormac become a monster but claim no longer sure and allow for the possibility of other explanations? Because simply saying that I can't remember what anything from that day is a no-go. Absolutely a no-go. I'm leaning more towards the first option, and hopefully, so do you. At least until I hear any more objections to that. And I don't think there are. Then again, I can wait a little bit on that. At least a minute or so. There we go. First one. Then we're going for it. We tell the whole story without omission. I saw something I was not supposed to see, you begin. Claudia mostly listens in silence, only occasionally prompting you with a question or asking you to clarify something. When at last you are finished, she turns the mics off and grins at you, her eyes sparkling. It's the first time you've seen her smile since she re-entered her life. That was perfect, Liam. It's not enough by itself, but it will help a lot to have this on record when we get more evidence. And now that you've come forward, maybe others will too. I'd better get to editing. Thank you. Better than anyone, I know the risks you're taking. I promise I'll make it count. We're going to have a reckoning. For Simon and all the others. She gives you an awkward, uncertain hug before letting you leave. She does like us. At least I hope so. God, I hope so. Another night of restless, nightmare-plagued sleep has you waken up with an ashy taste in your mouth and an ache in your bones. Again and again, the howl that you first heard in the caves of Glenkildove echoes in your dreams. You dream that you are running through an endless forest, trying to escape from a creature that seems to be made of darkness and rage. It is 5 a.m. Tiptoeing downstairs to avoid waking Mare and Niam, you make yourself a light breakfast, then head out into the yard to drive out to the stump. Survivor perks an ear up at you as you pass by the outbuilding where she and Bran sleep, and she pads out to join you. You open the rear door of the jeep for her and she leaps inside. When the Normans first came to Ireland, they expanded outwards from their stronghold in Dublin, building a network of castles to secure the territory they claimed. One such castle was built up in the hills above Ballyavon to secure the strategic location of its river valley. It was raised during an uprising in the 16th century and never rebuilt. Now it is the stump, the shattered, overgrown foundations of a once imposing structure, surrounded by trees. It is a murky, overcast, and chilly morning. Survivor pats happily at your side, sniffing the damp air with infectious pleasure. You find the others, all except Sister Judith, gathered by the ruined southern wall. They're dressed for the outdoors. Kitty in a rumpled raincoat and oversized boots, Claudia in aviators and Doc Martens with a Green Army surplus coat over a crew neck sweater, while Daniel is dressed in an Aran sweater, waxed barboard jacket, and lace-up Stacy Glenn leather hiking boots. Like his outfit of the day before, it's a casual look that nevertheless must have cost 4 figures. Despite his impeccable getup, he looks red-eyed and miserable, his hands thrust inside his pockets. "What's the matter, Daniel?" Kitty asks. "You've always been a morning person." "Not when I've stuffed a yard of cocaine up my nose with a Swedish hiker the night before," he responds sourly. "Interesting that you measure your drug intake in Imperial," Claudia comments. "I'd have taken you for a metric system person." You look at your friends. It has been so long since you were all together like this. This hunt will be the first test of your ability to work together. You're all coming from different perspectives, different motives, and different levels of commitment to the hunt. A few words might make a significant difference. Well, we're definitely skipping the charisma leadership option and going for the second one. I will concisely brief them on everything we know about the beast and the other creatures we are hunting. That's composure and academics. Composure 3, academics 2. Not bad. Lastly, we'll go over the basics of survival in the wild with them. That's wits 2, survival 1. I don't like those odds. So we'll be going for the second option. You're able to give the others a crisp and concise summary of everything that you have collectively learned so far. Even though this is information they already had, you can tell that they find the clarity and calm of your briefing reassuring. It makes the task ahead seem less frightening to have the information laid out for them as only you can. "You're good at this," comments Claudia, looking at you over her aviators. "We can use your cahoots." "I think Lieutenant Grogan has more pressing concerns." Sister Judith strides out from the shadow of the surrounding trees. She is no longer wearing her habit, but instead is dressed in a camouflage jacket and combat trousers and tucked into her knee-high jackboots. Over one shoulder is slung a rifle, over the other is a matte black shotgun. "Are you sure you've got enough guns there, sister?" Daniel asks. She frowns at him. "The rifle is a Genia gas projector model 72. It fires tranquilizer syringes, each loaded with enough sedative to knock out a raging bull," she says. "Nevertheless, it may not be enough. That is why I have this." She hefts the shotgun. It's a Benetti 12-gauge M104 semi-automatic shotgun. "Wasn't aware that kind of firepower was legal for a civilian," says Claudia. "I am not a civilian. As of today, neither are any of you." Sister Judith believes that the stump is one of the places where the beast's pack meets, and so she has chosen here as the start of your hunt. "I wish we could get a better look at the terrain," Judith comments. "The enemy may ambush us." "How will you go about beginning the search?" Once again, I'll have the survivor sniff the ground to see what she can detect. That's either relationship with the survivor or charisma and leadership. So once again, that's right out. As we've noticed previously, Dogs do not react too well to werewolves. Second option. I will climb a tree to survey the surrounding area and gain a better knowledge of it. That's Dexterity 3, Athletics 2. Not too bad. I'll download satellite feed images of these hills and narrow down the search in that way. Intelligence 2, Academics 2, no, Science and Technology 1. A little worse. Or finally, I will use woodcraft and tracking techniques to try and to pick up a trail. That's Resolve and Survival, Resolve 4, Survival 1, or Wits and Awareness. Wits 2, Survival 1. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the second option. Any shotgun that's long enough and isn't semi-auto is legal. Still, gotta have a license, even if it's in Ireland, and even if it's for a hunting shotgun. But that's just me musing, or at least thinking about how things ought to be. Satellites, huh? Once again, that's Intelligence 2, Science and Technology 1. Any other votes? Semi-autos with about a 3 shell limit. I still gotta think about getting a license, a hunting license, when all of this is over. Grandpa used to have a shotgun somewhere in there. Not sure if it's still there, but still. That sort of count for something, right? But one vote for downloading satellite feed images, and another one for climbing a tree to survey the surrounding area and gain a better knowledge of it. Will there be a tiebreaker? I wonder. Not, I might just flip a coin to decide on that. And believe me, it is one of those fancy coins. I may or may not have shown it back in the day. Dexterity and Athletics is climbing a tree to survey the surrounding area to gain a better knowledge of it. That's the second option. The numbers, you mean. So once again, Dexterity 3 and Athletics 2. I like those odds. Tree it is then. Looking around, you can see a sycamore tree almost 100 feet high. From its upper branches, you'll be able to get an unrivaled view of the surrounding terrain. You get Daniel to give you a boost into the lower branches and begin slowly climbing upwards, hands and feet fumbling for purchase on the mottled bark of the tree. It is a difficult climb, but at last you pull yourself up into the swaying crown of the sycamore tree. From here, you look out over a truly extraordinary view of the rolling Wicklow Hills. Fading green foliage and brown earth shot through with a silver white of waterfalls under a chilly goose-gray autumn sky. Setting its melancholy beauty to one side, you study its details and commit them to memory as a general might study the salient landmarks of a battlefield. Once you feel as though you have seen enough, you begin the careful descent. Sister Judith has been scouting ahead and has gathered information of her own. Between the two of you, you are quickly able to identify a wolf trail leading you away from the site and can follow it rapidly, confident that no wolves from the pack are waiting in ambush for you. You are in good condition and set a good pace for the rest of the group. Survivor mostly pads along at your side, but occasionally she will catch an interesting scent and disappear into the woods to investigate, usually emerging a few minutes later. By midday, you have emerged from the woods. The trail that you have been following has gone up through the ridge of hills separating Ballyavon from the neighboring valley and is now descending, through foothills dense with bracken and clover, to a compound of timber buildings surrounded by green fields, separated with high whitewashed fences. On the other side, a road leads away. "It's Greenwood Stables," says Kitty. "They train race horses. My big brother Seamus worked there. Why did he come here?" "Why did it come here?" Sister Judith has been inspecting the ground. "This creature comes here a great deal," she says. "The tracks we have been following lie atop older ones, many of them. It must have a lair somewhere here. It will be difficult to proceed without getting caught trespassing on land owned by the stables, so we come up with an alternative plan. Sister Judith is sure that the werewolf you have been following has occupied its hideout near the stables for a matter of months, if not years. The people who work in the stables may have caught sight of it or heard strange sounds at night. Any story or rumor could help locate your quarry's lair. Kitty will go to the stable to visit her brother. You will accompany her and try to learn everything you can. Meanwhile, Sister Judith, Daniel, and Claudia will each occupy different points overlooking the stables to make sure that the werewolf does not slip away from its hiding place while you are within. You leave Survivor in with Claudia. The wolfhound whines a little as she watches you walk away, but you make it clear that you will be coming back. You and Kitty discuss the task at hand as you walk down through the gorse bushes to the stable entrance. According to Kitty, stable hands tend to be close-mouthed and wary of strangers. Even her brother might not be all that communicative. Things aren't so good between them at the moment. As you walk into the stable yard, you can see a chestnut stallion being led out of his stall and rearing up, a circle of grooms quickly surrounding him and trying to calm him down. You could intervene. If you could intervene, you might gain the trust of the stable hands. Then again, perhaps you should stay clear. No stable hand would appreciate the interference of an outsider who didn't know what he was doing. And you have noticed CCTV cameras everywhere, unsurprising given the astronomical value of some of these horses. Perhaps you might be able to pick up some sign of your quarry in one of these cameras, if you could gain access to the stable's security area. What will you do? Option 1, try to sneak into the security area in order to look through their CCTV footage. That's Dexterity and Clandestine. Again, Dexterity 3, Clandestine 2. Not too bad. Option 2, I will approach the horse and try to calm it down. That's Composure 3 and Leadership 0. Not liking those odds. I will keep my distance from the horse, but once the commotion has died down, start a conversation with some of the stable hands. That's Charisma and Leadership. Also a bad choice. And finally, I will rely on Kitty's brother to tell us what we need to know. That takes relationship with Kitty, and currently it is at 61%, so... not the worst choice, but definitely not the best. All in all, I'm leaning towards either the first or the second option, with possibly the fourth being seriously considered. If I don't hear any other options, I think I will be leaning towards the first one. The sneaker. Then, dexterity and clandestine it is. You take advantage of the distraction the stallion is causing to dash across the yard until you are outside, and around the corner from the door to the room occupied by the security guards, a little alleyway off the yard where you cannot be seen. Following a plan with the two of you came up with together, Kitty comes over and knocks on the door of the security room. She claims to have been attacked by a stray dog outside the stables. As you'd hoped, this causes an immediate reaction. It's clearly not the first time that there have been stories of wild beast attacks in the area. The guards bring her to the tack room to give her a cup of tea and take her statement. They leave the door open behind them. This is your chance. You slip quietly inside and review the footage of the bank of monitors occupying one wall of the room. It doesn't take too long to find what you're looking for. Footage from a few hours ago, gathered by one of the cameras on the southern end of the stables, the one facing the hill, shows a lean grey shadow moving down the slope. You're able to track its progress to the all-weather gallops, the outdoor area where the stable owners exercise their horses. This must be where the wolf makes its den. You wait for Kitty outside the stables. It isn't long before she's able to make an excuse and leave, and the two of you go back to the others together. You gather the others from their watching posts and tell them what you've learned. Sister Judith nods. Well done. The creature's lair must be in this place, these gallops, and it is to us to beard it there. The course along with which the horses exercise is kept clear, but it winds around a hollow, no-man's land densely covered in ferns. Your quarry's lair must be somewhere in this weedy jungle. Survivor sniffs at it uncertainly. It's clearly seeming to sense the werewolf's presence somewhere within. Sister Judith, scouting ahead, disappears into the greenery. A quarter of an hour later, she emerges. Her expression is as impassive as ever, but her eyes burn with excitement. It is here, and we have caught it sleeping. You quickly formulate a plan. The werewolf lies sleeping in its wolf form in a den that has a dugout of the earth near the heart of the overgrown area. Thanks to the speed of your pursuit, you have been able to catch it up with it while it sleeps. Judith and the others will approach it, spread out, and beat their way through the undergrowth. Wakened from its sleep and under the fire from the sister's shotgun, Judith believes that it will be too confused and exhausted to take on its monstrous beast-man form. Instead, its animal instincts will take over, due to its present form, and it will flee in the only direction that its hunters have left for it. You will be waiting with Judith's tranquilizer rifle for it to emerge outside the hollow. At point-blank range, it will be near impossible shot to miss. Once it has been rendered unconscious, Judith will take charge of the animal and bring it to a society-safe house in Dublin, a place designed to hold such monsters. Once it has returned to its human form, she will interrogate it. What will you do after you get everything you need from it? Judith asks Claudia. Judith looks at her. There can be no quarter in the war against Satan's children. A little while later, you watch from a prone position on the grass as the others spread out around the hollow and push their way in through the weeds. Claudia, Daniel, and Kitty are all visibly frightened, their faces pale. After all the debate and discussion, they are now going to confront one of the world's darkest legends, a monster of the sort that has haunted humanity's tales and dreams for millennia. But they move with resolve, even eagerness. After 8 years of broken sleep and unsolved mysteries, they're finally taking direct action. How do you feel, gripping Judith's tranquilizer and waiting in cover? I think we feel excited and eager for this hunt's climax. Then again, we can also feel uncertain, not sure that we want to deliver our quarry into Judith's hands. If we look at our stats, and specifically our personality, we're definitely more of a hedonist, more of a hunter, more of a sincere person, with a conciliatory approach and a toss-up between cautious and reckless, and idealist and cynic. Taking that into account, I'd say either a second or a third option. thinking I am going to go with the second one, at least. I trust there are no objections. A few tense minutes pass, and then at last you hear the dull, hollow boom of Judith's shotgun, followed by shouts and the howl of a wolf. You grip the Genia. Something bursts out of the hollow directly in front of you. A huge yet lean grey wolf, moving at an unbelievable speed. At your feet, Survivor barks in excitement, knowing the climax of the day's hunt is at hand. You are staring directly into its face. Its golden eyes seem to widen with recognition as it sees you, and its nostrils flare, but it is too late for it to change direction or attack you. Judith was right. There is no way you could miss it this distance. Honestly, all of the options are automatic success. Let's go with the first one. I shoot the werewolf with a tranquilizer rifle. I need the information the Inquisitor can get out of this thing. Or, I shoot the werewolf with a tranquilizer rifle. If I don't, this thing will tear my throat out. I don't think it will. And there's the stupid option. I lift my hands off the rifle and raise them in the air, hoping that the werewolf is still human enough to understand that I pose no threat and I am allowing it to flee. A hunter must hunt. And we're not letting this one slip away. So, first option it is. Just as Sister Judith showed you, you line up the Genia and fire straight into the werewolf's neck. For a couple of heart-stopping moments, it continues its headlong charge, bending its legs to leap at you, then suddenly collapses. You've taken the werewolf down. A few moments later, Judith and the others have emerged from the hollow and are inspecting the huge grey-furred body of the unconscious wolf. It's so hard to believe that this is sometimes a human being, murders Claudia. This world is so fucking weird. Ignoring Sister Judith's glare, she takes multiple pictures of the unconscious werewolf with her phone. But even as she does it, the body starts to transform. The fur and fangs retract, claws turn into fingers, the long head draws back into itself. It is a deeply unsettling thing to observe, and within a few moments, you are standing over the naked body of a short but muscular man in his early middle years, deeply marked by the signs of hard living. Gotta call it, this is Old Tom. Judith brushes Claudia aside and hefts the man's unconscious form over her shoulders. Leading the way, she walks out of the gallops and into the parking lot nearby. Unceremoniously dropping her burden on the tarmac, she selects a nearby car, a blue Honda. Using the butt of her shotgun, she smashes the driver's side window and lets herself into the car, depositing the unconscious man in the back seat. Taking a screwdriver from her pack, she uses the shotgun to hammer it into the ignition slot, then turns it like a key. The engine starts. "Did they teach you to do that at seminary?" asks Danielle innocently. Sister Judith ignores him and addresses you. "You have done great work today, better than I would have believed possible for anyone outside the society. You would have made a fine inquisitor." She glances with a curling lip at her unconscious prisoner. "I will take this vile creature to Dublin and extract all the information I can from it. When my work is finished, I will come back to renew our war against the beast. This I promise you. Everything I learn from it, I will share with you. We will hunt together again, soon, you and I." Screen went fuck you for a second. Weird. Maybe. One more thing. A warning. This creature's packmates will note its absence. They will want revenge, and they are cruel and cunning. Guard yourself against them and stay alive until I can return. Go with God, my friend. She speeds off, engine roaring. You're not sure how long the werewolf will stay under its sedation. Sister Judith clearly wants to have it chained up before it would come around. Kitty watches as the car disappears off the horizon, foreboding on her face. I hope I've done the right thing, she says. We've stayed on the good side of a heavily armed zealot, Daniel comments. Seems like the right thing to me. And whew, what a ride. That was fucking amazing. Better than drugs. As long as she keeps her word and shares, Claudia adds. She's getting the chance to question a frickin' werewolf. I hope she thinks to film it changing shape. A row runs by the Greenwood stables, on the opposite side from the route you approached it. It's too dark now to go back over the hills the way you came, even if it wasn't for the risk of werewolves, so you decide to hitch a lift on the open road. A close-mouthed trucker stops for you, accepts without comment your story and about having gotten lost while hiking in the mountains, and gives you a ride back to Ballyavon on the Wolf's Head, dropping Kitty off en route. Daniel and Claudia go to their rooms, while you go around the back to the living quarters you have with Mayor. She and Liam have already gone to bed, so you let yourself quietly into the moonlit kitchen. The stillness is broken by the insistent jangle of the landline. You feel a sudden presentiment. You pick up the black kitchen phone. You fucked up, says a voice on the other end in a rasping Dublin accent. Hello to you too. You helped that bitch from the Society of St. Leopold capture one of us. We know where she took him, and after we've got our brother back, we're coming for you and your friends. The voice laughs, a harsh, grating sound. The Wolf's Head. That's your gaff, isn't it? I know it. Maybe I'm watching it now. Know where your room is, round the back, 2 flights up. Know where your old auntie and her little girl, such a sweet little thing, sleep. Know where your friends are staying, a fucking journo and a Lebanese gobshite. I know where your friend Kitty lives in the village, or know about her man, her brother. Maybe I'll pay one of you a visit tonight. What do you think? Do you think little Nia could enjoy a visit from the big bad wolf? Threatening a 4-year-old? Pathetic. You want a real fight, you know where to find me, mate. The only response is a whooping laugh. A laugh that turns into an animal howl that no human throat could produce. One that keeps rising in the volume until you slam the receiver down. You are alone in the chilly, moonlight-flooded kitchen. Somewhere in the darkness is the man or the thing that called you. Cormac is out there somewhere too, a hunted animal, and all the other beasts that walk as men. They are there, running fleet-footed through the night, your scent in their nostrils. And who knows what other horrors besides. I don't want to hurt anyone, but if they come for me and my friends, I will do what I have to do. A cold draft raises the hair on the back of your neck. Up you go upstairs to your bed. The hunt begins again tomorrow. But for now, we get to distribute our experience points. We got physical, social, and mental attributes, as well as physical, social, and mental skills. And right now we've got 12 experience per. That's pretty good. So let's consider our options. I am all for improving our, at least driving a little bit. That could definitely use some improvement. So that should be under mental skills, right? Yeah, there it is. That's 3 experience to raise driving to 1. And we'll be still left with 9 experience. And after that, I think we are... we need to improve either intelligence or wits. Personally leaning more towards intelligence. That should be Oh, 15 experience. Yeah, no. That's outside of our... That's outside of our budget so far. Oh, and if we want to raise our resolve to 5, it's gonna take 25 experience. Don't want to raise any of my mental attributes, so... Skills it is, then. Maybe a point into intimidation. Or science and technology. That could work too. So, physical skills. If we go for intimidation, that's... no, wait. That's social. Intimidation is obviously social. Yep, that's 6 experience, which... Wait, what? What do you mean, 0 experience points? Have we spent all of them already? My god. I guess I either didn't notice or have clicked the wrong button. Which is highly unfortunate, so I don't wish to spend any more experience points. And on this note, I think we can call it for tonight. Hopefully you're liking the plot so far, where it's going, and where it will lead us. I know I am liking this development, and the stakes are gonna be rising as we go. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I will see you all tomorrow for Warhammer Wednesday, when we go back to Mechanicus.